What's up, Jets fans? Welcome to the latest edition of Jets Latest, where you get the latest on the Jets. I'm your host, the spitting statistician Dane Martinez, and today we continue to focus on what I believe is the most underrepresented, underrespected position in all of football that actually correlates to how good your entire team is, and that is the offensive line. Let me tell you something. If you need any more examples, let me give you something right here. Saquon Barkley. Okay, when he was with the New York Giants in his last year, was tackled behind the line of scrimmage at the third highest rate in all of football. That same year, you know who was tackled behind the line of scrimmage at the lowest rate in all the football? Philadelphia Eagles running back DeAndre Swift. Then you put Saquon Barkley away from the blunt guts trash line of the New York Giants onto the Philadelphia Eagles. What does he do? Runs for 2,000 yards. What does he do? Become a fringe MVP candidate and helps take the Eagles to the Super Bowl. What happens in Detroit when they have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL? Jared Goff, who was an afterthought, all of a sudden goes there in his second act, right, and becomes a legitimate Pro Bowl caliber quarterback and helps the Detroit Lions get to division titles, NFC championship games. That's what Aaron Glenn is seeing. That's what he learned in Detroit. That is what he is trying to build here. And we talk about the attitude, and boy, does it start up front. And let me tell you something. When Aaron Glenn and Darren Mosey came on in, they had something to work with. The Jets already last year had one of the better interior offensive lines as per PFF in the entire league. Check this out. John Simpson, 11th among guards. He allowed less than a 4% pressure rate, top 10. His run blocking grade, top 10. Joe Tipman at center, 7th among centers in the NFL. Okay, his run blocking grade was 7th in the NFL. AVT at the other guard, a top 10 guard as for PFF. The pressure rate he allowed less than 3%. You put these things together, people were not pushing the pocket against the New York Jets, okay? And I think that is absolutely important and something we have to recognize and something that we continue to add as the offensive line this year. And how did we do it? We did it in the draft. Let me tell you something else, though. That's important before we go to the draft, okay? This is why I put the picture up there. Look at what John Simpson is saying. There was out on social media kind of showing his highlights about how he was being physical. You hear that word again. Tough. Power, competitive. John Simpson saw this on Twitter, retweeted it, and said, having fun out there, with the icon of a pancake emoji, okay? So he actually relishes the idea of doing this, pancaking folks, being tough, being physical, being aggressive. That is the identity that Aaron Glenn is talking about. And like I said, boy, did we add to it with number 7 overall in the draft, Arman Meu. Talk about how Aaron Glenn says this was a perfect fit. The athletic profile is off the charts. He's mean, nasty, he's tough. He really fits what we are trying to do on offense, so picking him was a no-brainer. Once the pick was there for us, it was like, this is the guy. This is the guy that is going to complete the offensive line. Remember, we spent our first-round draft pick last year on Olu Fashanu. And he was starting to progress nicely before getting injured. But Arman Meu completes this to be sure. He is an absolute beast of a man, and he has that attitude. He has called himself a mauler. He has said things like, just run behind me, we will be okay. He gave up 3 sacks in 3 years in Missouri, did not allow a sack or a quarterback hit last year at Missouri. And when we talk about the guy, earlier in an episode of Jets Latest, I talked about how Glenn is comparing him to Penei Sewell, who was the anchor of that Detroit Lions offensive line and is a multiple-time Pro Bowler. That is high, lofty praise for Arman Meu. But the key here is this. Overall, if you have a top offensive line, which on paper, and I acknowledge, these things are on paper for now, but I will say that the 3 guys that were in the interior did kind of demonstrate that, produce like that last year. But when you put that there, it opens up so much. Again, I told you what it did for Saquon Barkley and the Philadelphia Eagles. I've told you what it did for Jared Goff, a second act developing quarterback in Detroit. Maybe the same can be said for Justin Fields. You see what it did for the run game in Detroit, right? When they had Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, they call him Sonic and Knuckles. What is that going to do for Brees Hall? Where people said he had a down year last year, you put him behind a top 5 offensive line, and we will start to see what happens. So I really want to focus on that not only is Arman Meu going to be a great addition to this, not only is the attitude there, but Aaron Glenn has said we want to lead with that. People will see that on tape, know that the Jets are going to be a physical team that is part of the brand. And I think that is very, very important. And we saw these guys together. Finally, for the first time, a couple of weeks ago, there was voluntary minicamp, okay? So I want to talk about what did we learn, if anything, at voluntary minicamp. You can't learn much, right? I don't want to, just like Aaron Glenn said, I don't want to get caught up about guys wearing t-shirts and shorts, just like at the scouting combine for the draft. But here are a couple things I do want to say. One is as it relates to Justin Fields. Okay, people out there, you saw film out there, you saw video of them in workouts, and universally, people are saying that Justin Fields' footwork is improved, his mechanics are improved, and that is part of the development of a young quarterback. That's supposed to be the case, right? And so it's good to see that that is happening. He also looks like he's been in the weight room, if you want to know the truth. And here's what I'll say. Fields was already developing as a passer. Okay, his rookie year in Chicago, he had a 59% completion percentage. Year 2, up to 60. Year 3, up to 61. Last year with Pittsburgh, he had a 66% completion percentage. If he improves upon that a little bit more, 68, 69, that is right around league average, if not better. You hope your quarterbacks these days have a 70% or better completion rate, and Fields, with improved kind of mechanics, footwork, growth as a passer, can certainly get there. The other thing I'm going to say is he actually has better weapons here than he has ever had in Chicago. Chicago never had a great run game. He's got a run game with Brees Lightning right here. You look at the wide receivers the Bears had. DJ Moore, and that's about it. Here he's got Garrett Wilson, who I think is just as good, if not better. And I think some veterans we've talked about, from the Josh Reynolds out there, from the Tyler Johnsons, from the idea of Lazard, who can help him from a blocking standpoint. We expect Malachi Corley. And you know what else he's got a better? Offensive line. That's why it is so important. I think there is legitimate reasons to believe that Justin Fields will continue to develop as a passer, and he's got that dual threat ability. We've got guys like Enstring, the offensive coordinator, coming from Detroit as well, where they had one of the top offenses in all of football. Here's the other thing that I think is important. You saw everyone there, especially Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. These are two guys who we all know are kind of in the market for their big contract extensions, right? It could have been easy for guys like Sauce or Garrett Wilson to skip voluntary minicamp and not be there, make this kind of statement that they're looking for the money, they're looking for the bag, they're looking for the extension. You saw that in other places in the NFL, but no. They were there, they were participating, and they were excited to kind of get down with the new team, the new regime, the new culture, and show it on tape for Aaron Glenn and Darren Mosey. Okay, I'm not going to say that this is going to be all Shangri-La and the Jets are going to go 12-5, 13-4, but what I am saying is that the culture is real, the vision, the identity has been set. It starts with an offensive line that we now definitively have as above average and young and able to build together. And some of these key additions, right? Whether it's Jermaine Johnson, who I talked about yesterday, who got that 5th-year extension, guys like Sauce, guys like Garrett Wilson, young leaders on the team who want to show up for this team. As much as it can be in late April or early May, these are all good signs for the Jets. We'll see how it all looks, obviously, as we get into minicamp, training camp, and ultimately the 2025 season. But if you are patient as a Jets fan, you can be kind of pleased, pleasantly surprised that we are operating with intention. There is a vision, and we have a young, pretty talented roster. I mean, at every position group, there is the chance to be excited about what we have, whether it's Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson, the O-line, the young edge rushers, Jermaine Johnson and Will McDonald, Quincy Williams and Sherwood, for goodness sake, Sauce Gardner, right? Like, there is reason to be excited all over the roster. We are young, we have cap flexibility, and we have pride in being a brand of player that is tough, physical, aggressive, instinctive, and versatile. That'll do it for this episode of Jets Latest. Remember, like this video, subscribe to the channel, engage with me out there on the comments and on social media. You can find me at Spittin' Speeds. And if you want to hear more from me, the Spittin' Statistician Dane Martinez, I am the host of the FTN Fantasy Show over on SiriusXM, the fantasy channel number 87. We give you not only the Jets, but everything: fantasy football, fantasy baseball. NBA playoffs are going on right now. FTN is a great website for betting, for fantasy, give you all sorts of data points, a Discord, a lot of great content to help you win your leagues and win that cash. But one thing I know for sure, we will be back tomorrow to continue to look at the reshaping of the green and white, the depth charts, the cap space that we still have, and what is on the horizon for the Jets. We'll see you then. Have a great one, everybody. We out of here. Peace.